welcome back. This is part 3 of converting my mum's van. Basically this video is going to be about insulating it and then replacing all the panels. I have actually just put down the flooring plywood, and I went over to my father's house and he's got a workshop and power tools, and we sort of made a day of it, and I'll talk about that first and then we'll get on with the insulation. I did want to film it, but it's a nightmare filming and working. Like it takes all day to do something that could take a couple of hours. So that's why I didn't bother filming the floor, because I didn't want to waste any time. However, today's a different kettle of fish. So speaking of which, let's have a coffee. Here we are. Okay, so let's have a little look and see about the floor, the plywood that's down, and also started guesstimating and looking at where the bed's going and stuff like that, just for a little bit of a guide. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, right, so originally, if you remember in the first video, there's actually a thin sheet of ply that was already in there. Have a look around the side. So I thought it was worth leaving this thin sheet and then basically put a thicker sheet on top. And the entire reasoning for having a thicker sheet on top is so I have something to actually screw into wherever I want. Otherwise, you're just going to constantly screw into the body of the van, which is a bit of a pain. Okay, so let's go in the van and then at least it'll be quieter. Right. I basically put in a sheet dead center, and then it wasn't quite wide enough, so we had to actually cut these wings on each side and these little back pieces as well, and the panels go up to there, so there's no need to I'm going to put insulation in there instead. I kind of wish I did film some of this, because a quick way of actually doing this, especially if you've already got a bit of plywood underneath, so you can use that as a guide, like a template. Basically, the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to use paper, graph paper, whatever paper you've got, Rizzler papers if that's your thing. But if you actually calculate with the paper, you have to measure a bit of it and stuff, but you can get it pretty bang on pretty quickly. And some of these cuts can be a bit of a pain, so that's exactly what I did with this over here. And anyway, yeah, that's down, well, I better say how I connected it really. We used self-tapping screws that went straight through both sheets of ply and then straight into the body of the actual vehicle. So this is solid now, like this is not going anywhere. Also cut a hole there for the jack, the spare tyre, which is underneath the van, and you have a wrench or whatever to undo that. And then this was important to actually be accessible here, and as you can see, it's clear. So the one thing I'm going to put on top of this is some kind of laminate flooring. I haven't made my mind up on that yet. England isn't like America, funny enough, where you have to actually concern yourself with extreme temperature changes. So a bit of laminate flooring in here might be all right, it might not be. If not, some kind of lino-y kind of thing, that is going to go in last. So it's really, at the moment, I don't care. But yes, okay, so let's have a quick chat about the bed, because that was not going to be planned to be done the other day, and then we just started messing around and sizing stuff up. So yeah, the bed. Wasn't actually planning on doing any of this yet, but until after the insulation, but we kind of got carried away the other day. I've done a lot of sitting in here and measuring and seeing what heights are acceptable so your head doesn't hit the ceiling and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of difficult because the ceiling's not been put in yet, but kind of decided that this would be a nice width for a chair. So, it's going to go all the way to the back, to the front. As you might notice, I changed the actual page to the left-hand side. It's not anything to do with structural integrity, as I learned. It turns out my mum really likes hanging her clothes from it, so I moved it because building the bed with it round there would have been a bit of a pain, so I put it on the left so you can still have it, and then I can build the bed here. But yeah, this is going to be the width of the actual chair, so to speak, and it's going to come up probably 12 inches, which is just the right height for hitting there, and still gives enough space to put Tupperware boxes and all that kind of stuff underneath. The reason why we're starting it on the actual floor is because trying to actually get any timber braced across the side of the van, especially with this being a door, is actually a bit of a pain, because it's none of it's level or flush. So what I'm going to do is build a rectangular cube, get the worktop, and then basically extend it, make some extra pieces that go all the way to the back, so the seat the top of it will actually go into the panels. Then obviously we're going to have a cupboard there. I don't want to talk too much more about the woodwork side of things with the bed and the cupboard yet, because plans do change, but I have quite a plan of how they're going to work together, and I've almost drawn it out in my head. Maybe I should use some paper. But let's have a little look at the insulation I bought then, because the first stuff that's going on is foil back. I think it's called Reflectrix. I'll put a link in the description if anyone's interested or wants to buy any of this stuff. Let's go. Let's have a little look at see what we're dealing with. First layer of insulation. It's like some kind of foil back bubble wrap, Reflectrix kind of. I don't know that name is. I think that's just a brand name or something. But anyway. Go pick the boxes for what is that about? Totally unnecessary size box, right? Here it is. Anyway, that's Amazon for you. Be careful using one of these if you have never used one before. In America, they're called box cutters, and these are called Stanley blades, and they're probably one of the most dangerous things that anyone could ever use. That's probably the most grown-up thing I'm ever going to say. Right, so let's try and do this on camera. I've got 15 meters of this, right, which is probably a bit much, but you know, we like to be thorough. As you can see on this side, it's basically, I don't want to say bubble wrap, but it is bubble wrap with foil on it, and it's got an adhesive back, so it means that we can just cut this and then stick it, and then that's it, it's done. So it's for convenience. We don't need to use any spray glue on this stuff. Right, so that's what it is. I guess the plan of action is I'm going to do the door panels first, get those done, and then I'm probably going to do the ceiling, the roof, and we just work from there. Yeah, I've watched loads of videos on this, and although I haven't ever done this particular thing before, I know what I've got to insulate, and it's not difficult. I just think this is going to be a fiddly few hours, of just cutting everything correctly and making sure all the inside door panels where you can barely get your hands and stuff. I think that's going to be a problem, but let's get on with this and then see what problems I may or may not have. So first thing I've already just thought about is to mark all this, to measure it, pens, not pencils or anything like that, just quick, I think this is the way. Okay, so I'm just going to literally measure. This is going to be really hard holding a phone and doing this, so I'll try. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally measure 17.5 inches, and then measure the actual length or width, whichever way you want to look at this, and that's 30. And then I'm just going to cut that out, and then I'll cut it with scissors, and then I'll run the Stanley blade lightly to get the curves. I think that's self-explanatory. So now let's see if this actually sticks or not. It's also supposed to be the hottest day in England so far, which is why I'm already sweating like a beast. I can't apologise for that. First panel done. Right. Now I just wanted to film a little bit of just doing that, just because it's really basic, isn't it? But now I'm just gonna, you know, get on with it, and I'm gonna get these other panels done, and then maybe we'll have a coffee at that point and see how much messing around this all is. But anyway, let's get the sweat test on. Okay, so a nice little pit stop for the moment. That's all 4 side door panels or window panels, whatever you want to call them, done. As you can see, sort of cut them into size. Actually, I was in 2 minds about keeping this piece on top of here, but then I just figured this is going to be covered anyway, and I probably won't get any other insulation, so I might as well just cover the whole thing. It's going to have a panel in front of it. But anyway, right, now that's done. I guess I'm going to do the ceiling, the roof, because that's the next pain in the ass, to be honest with you. And then it's all the fiddly stuff. I'm trying to use all the offcuts for the fiddly stuff. Ceiling. Ceiling is done. I'll have a little walk around here. I'm going to do the back door panels now. Just keep bit by bit. Okay, after a cheeky bit of lunch, the next thing I'm going to insulate larges. Okay, that's the wheel arches are insulated, and I guess it's now time to do all the fiddly bits. So yeah, let's just keep going. Slight camera malfunction. Anyway, let's get back to it. Everything inside this van with this first stage insulation done. Very nice. We'll have a little proper look at this in a second. Ah, no, I got back doors. Got to do the back doors. Okay, I think I have finished it. The first lot of insulation. So, let's have a little look. Okay, so we've got the panels on the sides. We've got the rear door panels. This side panels as well. Actually went over this bit here in the middle in the end. Didn't really need to, but wheel arches are done. All the outside parts are done, even inside these little bits, and the actual door linings as well. Some of that stuff in there isn't actually on the outside skin, so I don't really feel it's necessary to put it on that, really. So the next stage, it's time to actually get the well, let's have a look at the insulation that I've actually got, and then basically start filling all this up. And yeah, I'll have a clean up first, I think. Okay, time for a quick look at the secondary insulation, which is fiberless fiberglass. Basically, it's made out of recycled bottles, which is, you know, good for the environment, isn't it? But more selfishly, it means that I'm not going to be itchy touching normal insulation, especially on such a hot day. Right, let's have a little look at it. I've probably ordered too much. I mean, I can't quite get over how much foil back stuff I've got left. Definitely 15 meters might have been a bit of a call. Guess we'll have to do another van up then. Anyway, secondary. As you can see, there's quite a lot of the stuff here. Just don't want to run out, you know what I mean? Anyway, let me put the camera somewhere so we can open it and then have a little touch and play. So I've just unrolled it. It's actually good because I'm glad it's not 100 mil thick. I mean, it probably could be, but I'm literally touching it and then, oh, it's bliss. There's literally no, you can literally sleep on this. Speaking of which, I have a friend that literally occasionally does get drunk and sleep in actual rock wool, so I do mix with some weirdos sometimes. Right, however, this is really nice. The thickness of this is going to be perfect for the doors, and anything that's double, I'll just literally double layer. Now, in the actual compartments, or the cavities I should say, this is going to be no problem just putting it in there and filling it up as tight as possible. However, these parts, I mean, I'm going to have to get the panels out and then cut it all into place and then put it in there. A solution around this kind of problem would be to use spray glue and glue it so it holds in situ, or maybe use double-sided tape just to temporarily hold it there. We'll see how this goes, but basically I've got 2 rolls of this. It's probably too much, but I'd rather have a bit left over than run out, so let's do this. Oh, I'm going to change my Stanley blade. That's what I'm going to do. Stanley knife not good, scissors a bit slow. It's going to go and see if there's something else as an alternative. Turns out this stuff is so good you can just literally tear it with your hands. No knives or sharp things needed. Okay, I actually thought there'd be a lot more left over. There is actually a lot left over still, but it never ends on the Isle of Wight, man. Basically, let's have a quick look at this. Just luckily I've got it all in there without actually having to put the panels on yet. So let's flip the camera. Okay, so I've filled the doors. I could probably put more in, to be honest. I can see some black there. And as I got left over, then I'm going to try and put as much in as I can. Here is a complete cavity. So, luckily you can take these off and pump some in here. We've got to be careful with cabling. But yeah, that's basically it, you know. Just keep filling up the holes and then just sort of, might as well use as much of this as I can, otherwise it's just going to be wasted. And then I guess we replace the panels. And then, you know, ready at that point, it will be ready for lighting. Oh, no, I can't put the panels on yet. I can put the bottom panels on. I can't put the top ones on because I have to route the cabling yet for the lights, which is going to be the next video. Or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on with this. Only got this much left, which is amazing. I thought it would be a lot more, but basically I'm measuring up extra bits here, and the reason why is because I want to put insulation in this up here. I don't know if you can see it with the camera there, all this part up here. But something that I looked at the other week, over there's a 12-volt cigarette lighter charger. So what's going to happen with that is that the wiring, we're going to move from that side and put it in that side, and I don't want to put the insulation until we've done that. And the reason why I'm putting this cigarette lighter there is because the battery unit that we're actually putting in here can trickle charge off the car when you're driving just by plugging in a cigarette lighter. So having this over here built into one of the compartments is going to be really ideal, because this is where the cupboard's going to be. So obviously from that, when you're driving, you can plug it in and charge it. When you're stationary, just unplug it and use the batteries. And we'll go into the electrics later and stuff like that, but where it's only a 1 night, 2 night van kind of thing, you don't need like 1.21 gigawatts of power or anything like that. So yeah, basically I'm just leaving the insulation ready. So once the wiring's in, then I can pump in the insulation and then it will be done. So I think that's a wrap with the insulation. I'm probably just going to put a few of these lower panels in so it's all tidy and stuff like that. And yeah, let's do that now. Why not? Right, okay, so that's basically the bottom black panels have been put back in. Just have a look round, and no electrical cables are going to be going through those, so that's fine to panel those back up right now. And also I don't want the insulation falling out because I haven't glued it in or anything. So that's now a good job done. I guess it's now time to, because I haven't even mentioned this, but I'm going to be using something called 4-way stretch carpet. And in a van, when you've gone through the effort of making a bed and, you know, a sofa, and, you know, you're making a cup of tea or having a beer by the beach or whatever you're doing, nothing actually gets a bit more cold, psychologically speaking, and to the touch, than actual cold van. So one thing that a lot of people do is that they use 4-way stretch carpet, and it's this really durable, stretchable carpet, and it's spray glued onto the actual metal. And some people literally do the entirety of the inside of the van, and that can look good. I mean, taxis are like that, but I think that's a little bit much. So my plan is to use the plywood panels. God damn it, man. Some people should be put in prison for what they drive or ride. Seriously, scum. Right. Anyway, I digress. Basically, plywood panels have already been cut in, so rather than waste them, I thought that I would actually make them a feature and varnish them or stain them or paint them, or a combination of both. I haven't really thought about colours yet, but what I am going to do is I'm going to 4-way stretch carpet around all of this. So there's plywood here and that, and plywood there. So all of the white that you now see, that will be carpeted instead of the whole door being carpeted. And I just think it might actually break things up a little bit. And same with the roof. Once the cabling's in, obviously, I'm going to be using some timber slats, really lightweight, because weight is a consideration with all this. Really lightweight slats that are like tongue and groove, they lock together. And having the ceiling looking nice, like a pine, it probably will be pine, but I could stain it or do whatever. Having the lights come through there, and then having all of the metal white parts that you see all carpeted, and then with the pine panels that could be any colour. And I think that'd be good. And the colour of the ceiling will be the colour of the worktop as well, just to actually have a nice bit of consistency of all this kind of stuff. Anyway, we'll talk about the woodwork side of things soon. Basically, I'm now going to put these pine panels back on, except for the one here on the right. So, yeah, this one here where the worktop is, because the panel goes all the way up to the top. So that will need insulation in there, but where cabling is going to come from this side, I don't know if we're going to actually have a light switch mounted onto the panel of this yet. So if I do, we'd have to remove the panel once again. Either way, that's going to be the only one I leave, and I'm going to put back all the other ones, and I'll see you in a second. That's the van, fully insulated. Time for a tidy up, and then basically it's time to get the electrics and the ceiling in. That's what's going to happen next. The electrics and the ceiling and all the lights and all that kind of stuff. And once I've done that, it's time for I don't know, make the bed. I'll see you on the next.